Welcome back to 8 Cubes. I'm KMBest. He's Lambie Series. We got some comments that said you couldn't tell us apart, so we made sure one of us was wearing glasses and the other one was not this time. We are 8 Cubes. We are going to talk about the 8 most important topics in Marvel's Snap. Aurora is number 1 on that list. Her text is confusing, but basically, she's a big 6-drop that makes all your other cards bigger with weird qualifications. So, what she does effectively is look at every location, look for an on reveal, look for an ongoing, look for an end of turn, and look for an activate. For every one of those she sees at the location, she will give that card 2 power. That is my understanding of how this card works. It will maximally, if you have a location with all 4 of them, another location with all 4 of them, and then a final location with 3 of them at which you play Aurora, it will give +8, +8, and +6. Confusing wording, but basically that's what it's doing.
I mean, it's a 6/6 that could give +20, right? I don't really care if it's confusing. It's probably kind of good. Like, okay, so my first thought is that, okay, which is the current deck that can run an endgame boss monster that just naturally has all these on reviews, ongoings, activates at minimum 3 of them, right? Then we were discussing this, and then KM was just Thanos, and I was like, Thanos kind of makes a lot of sense because you have so many stones that are low costed, which are on reviews and ongoings, and some of them have multiples, right? On review and ongoing. So based on our understanding, if a stone has on review and ongoing, it gets +4, right? So that's a lot of stats. And this is very Spectrum-ish if you think about it. In the past, ongoing Thanos just runs a bunch of ongoings that were good, and then you buff it all at the end of the game. At that point in time, it was Mobius, Goliath and stuff like that. So I think this card makes a lot of sense in Thanos. It's a boss monster. I mean, other than that, I don't think you can play this in RAM because the RAM doesn't play that many cards anyway. It just plays one thing a turn. Whereas for Thanos, it plays a ton of small things, and then you get to buff all of them. So this is a very Thanos card in my opinion, which is great. I love Thanos. You guys all know that I love Thanos anyway. So excited to see if this resurges Thanos into the spotlight.
Right, you presented that as a good thing, right? You're like, oh, which deck wants an endgame boss monster? To me, it's the other way around. It's what deck can afford to be doing this?
Which is why RAM can't afford to do that.
Yeah, you need to be playing a lot of cards by volume to make this actually make sense. And Thanos, I think this is the kind of thing where it's we'll play this in Thanos. What are our end of turns? Probably the 1-drops, maybe a thing first step. So the 1-drops, of course, being Black Cat, Hydra Bob. They say end of turn. That's fine. Get to weave them into our curve. I'm in for it. What are our activates? Herbie, yes. Lockjaw, question mark. Sure. Okay, we've got some activates in there. The rest of our deck is pretty much just ongoing Thanos because the stones cover most of our on reveals. We probably have Wiccan in there. And then, Mobius, Stardust, and that all makes sense. I don't think this card does anything other than that. I think it is only a Thanos card. And I don't even know if it's going to be a better Thanos card than Spectrum is. I don't know if what we're putting together with this deck is actually going to be better than just playing, Sam Wilson, Goliath, all the things that we had to get out. We're keeping Sam Wilson in the deck, but we're probably not playing Goliath in this version of it, right? We're probably not playing some of our other cool little ongoing cards. All those cards that are cool, that Spectrum might actually be more points with. We're giving those up in order to make this card Aurora work in the deck. I'm worried that what we're doing is reconstructing Spectrum Thanos, and it's still going to be exactly as good as current Spectrum Thanos.
I actually think it's a bit of the opposite because we mentioned what are the activates and end of turns that could fit in this deck, right? Those cards don't sound appealing to put in a Thanos deck, that's for sure, right? If you get what I'm trying to say, they don't sound amazing. They sound actually pretty bad. But this is the thing. This is my pitch here, whereby this is just an additional Spectrum. I mean, you're playing a Thanos deck, which means it's naturally a bit more inconsistent. So why not play both this and Spectrum? And whichever you get, you buff. You get to buff, right? The chance of drawing, you cannot play 2 Spectrums. If not, you would play 2 Spectrums. Why not play Spectrum and Aurora? And whichever one you draw will be the one that buffs the stuff, because the stones just naturally benefit from both, right? For the most part. So I think like this is just, instead of going for max power, we go for a lot of power, not max, but at a higher chance of doing it, because there's like two of the same-ish boss monster.
I'll tell you one other thing that bothers me about trying to be a Thanos deck right now. And it is that for some reason, Kyera is now a below vanilla stat line. Like, we're going to have to play Kyera because we're a Stones deck, and that's a 3-4. And it's just like, at that point, I might as well not even bother. Like, I'm going to play a 3-4 so I don't get Killmongered. Okay.
Yeah, people will play this deck. I am very confident people will play this deck. It's Thanos, man. People will play this
what
deck.
this actually means is, like, what you need to do is rock up to ladder with a Killmonger the second this card comes out and ruin my day. Fastball special, I don't really think we need to spend a ton of time on this, but I think it's a pretty powerful card where really there are a couple things that this card does pretty well. The first is it pairs well with Adamantium Infusion. So if you have a really, really, really big guy, like a man-spider combo you put together or a giant Black Panther or whatever, you chuck it at that lane, you keep effectively the power in that lane, you Adamantium Infusion it over to another lane, you win that lane too. As long as you have a guy that is big enough that he was already going to win the lane that he's in, this card pairs really well with Adamantium Infusion because it effectively allows you to keep that guy in the lane and also move him to another lane. That's really sick. The other thing this card does is cost 2, which makes it very efficient in various Nimrod and Destroy strategies because costing 2 allows you to simply get more things that go boom. I think the biggest upside of this card is costing 2. I think if it cost 3, it would be mostly unplayable. Like, the targeting would be kind of cool, but like the biggest thing that makes this card stand out from other cards is that it costs 2. I have seen people on Twitter, granted this is Twitter, being like, this is so OP. It's really not. If you are doing something crazy with this, it is because you already did something crazy. The only place where I think this is a meaningful change to a deck is Nimrod, which frankly feels pretty strong to me right now.
Yeah, I only have one thing to add on this one, to be honest. Firstly, your main point I think is definitely correct, which is the cost is the most important thing because it's 2, it's relatively easy to weave in. But I think the secondary impact of this, which is what I actually like the most about it. Like, I think cost is the most important thing. But what I actually like most about this card is the targeting, actually, because it gives you the option to not pop everything, right? Other than the one you want. Obviously, sometimes just popping everything, Venom or whatever, is just better. But this gives you the option to pop just the one. I think having the option of choice, like we talk about this with Adamantium Fusion as well, the option of choice on such a low-costed card, I think is very good for flexibility. And you know how Marvel Snap games can like spin out of control so often. So having just that a bit more control in a low-cost card is something that I really like.
Moving on to Maverick, who is very clearly legitimately strong, but also really poorly positioned in the sense that the metagame Maverick released into was one where ramp is a Cosmic Ghost Rider deck and mid-range is defined by Shadow King. And it's like, okay. I mean, like, is there a worst possible meta for my activate green power card to come out and like, is it actually, it is a good deck. That's sort of what I mean, where it's like, this is a card that I think is demonstrating real potential and real power in a metagame that is deeply hostile to it. And that's probably indicative of some actual levels of performance here. What I'm worried about is, like, I almost worry that people are going to, like, forget about him. Like, I worry that people are going to be like,
it costs 3. Don't ever forget about the card that can be played in the Surfer deck. It's 3. Anyway, carry on.
I think this card is just really good. Like, I think this card is actually, like, very close to being busted. And I think that the metagame is hostile enough to it that it doesn't feel that way right now. But I think that it very reasonably could be in the near future once anything changes. Like, this is a deck that I think is one of the 4 or 5 best decks in the game already in a very hostile metagame. Like, this kind of, like, Jocasta, Maverick, Surfer pile of garbage where you're half a combo deck and half a mid-range deck, and that's just a really powerful place to be in. It's a strong dynamic to leverage. It leverages a similar dynamic to like the ongoing decks that are just like half mid-range, but also if you correctly identify that your opponent has no interaction to do anything to you, you just combo out all your mid-range opponents and you just instantly win all those matchups. that's just a really, really, really strong position for a deck to be in. Like I feel like this is a fundamentally powerful deck that is being held back by exactly 2 common tech cards.
Yeah, I mean, I really just like this card because we talked about it in the previous video, and I think this is the same thing I want to bring up again, which is like you can draw out of order with this one. Like you don't have to strictly draw the Brute before the Surfer. You can draw the Surfer before the Brute as well, right? Like give the power of the Surfer to this
Dude,
one,
Surfer's
and then this
like
buffs the
the
Brute.
worst card in the deck.
Yeah, exactly.
Like-
You can literally draw cards in different orders, and then the Surfer becomes less of an important piece. But then obviously, if you drop it at the end, it's also still a powerful piece. So like this card just gives a relatively simple deck a little bit more, like one more layer of like complexity, optional complexity, which I think is good for winning games that used to be unwinnable.
The nerf to V-Hand, which is the title of this segment, I think is fine, right? Like I think we've talked enough about V-Hand where it's like, all right, you know, she probably deserved it, right? Going to 2/2, that's chill.
Yep.
I will say this. I think it is both of our opinion that the deck is still pretty good. Like that's like it's probably still a pretty good deck, right? Like
I just same pretty much actually.
I haven't seen a lot of people playing it, but it has opened up some questions as to like what the best Shadow King deck is. I've been messing around with the Honifer, just like full on just tech garbage deck, just every tech card in the deck, just like it's the old days, and the Sizer Annihilus list, which is fine but deeply held back by being an Annihilus deck. As soon as that card Xiao Lao comes out and that deck can actually run like a good card at the 5-drop slot instead of Annihilus Sentry, oh my god, it's gonna be so fun. That kind of stuff is what's competing for V-Hand's old spot. What I really want to talk about, though, is I think they went too far with Quinjet. I think that Quinjet did not need to be nerfed as well. And I think it's fine, you know, like to do that. But I think that if you wanted to take an extra point of power off the deck, just take it off of V-Hand. And Quinjet, I feel, is a bridge too far for me because V-Hand is so dependent on having cheap tech around and having that cheap tech be relevant that you can solve V-Hand being a good deck by solving the cheap tech. And if you don't want to do that, I understand, but something's going to be doing pretty much the same thing. So to me, this feels like a change for the sake of change or not enough of a nerf to the actual enabler. I don't like Quinjet losing a point of power. I think that is an unnecessary step.
How would you consider this one? Because I just when you talked about this, I just suddenly remembered something. I remember back then Thanos was like you're priced in to always play Psylocke. Like Psylocke was key, and then they took the power off Psylocke, but everyone still had to run the Psylocke. Is it very similar in this case? Because like you took a power off the Quinjet, but you kind of still have to run the Quinjet. So isn't that smart? Because they took a power off the card that you mandatorily have to still play.
My issue is other decks play Quinjet. Like I feel like if you're going to nerf a specific deck, you should really aim at the cards that are only in that deck as much as you possibly can. Like, hit V-Hand, hit Frigga. Don't hit Quinjet. Other decks do that, right? Like, it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, if you're looking at what the problem cards are in V-Hand and you're not willing to address, you know, Deafening Chord and Shadow King because you think those are good for the metagame, you hit V-Hand and you hit Frigga. Man. It's V-Hand and Frigga, right? Like, that's what you hit, right? Like, and I don't know why Quinjet? Why Quinjet dying for Frigga's sins here? Why is Frigga not a 3/3 right now? I don't know. I can't think of a good reason. All right, so, I mean, we got to talk about Shadow King. He is the man right now. Basically, every deck is doing something that Shadow King hits in various forms. Whether that be they are playing Nimrods that have double power or giving me a bunch of negative power with a fastball special, Shadow King solves that. Whether they are Black Panthering, Shadow King solves that. If they are playing a zombie package, Shadow King solves that. Every single deck Jet has ever made, Shadow King solves that.
Yep.
There are so many unique and interesting decks that Shadow King just puts in a dumpster. And I'm not saying we need to nerf him, because I think largely he's doing good things for the metagame. Like, it's probably good that all this sort of unaccountably large combo stuff just happens to get eaten alive by Shadow King. But I am kind of wondering if there's not another card that could also be doing that. Like, why is Shadow King the one that has to carry this whole load on his own? Why is it just Shadow King? And the answer is largely because he costs 3 and Shang-Chi costs 4. And that's kind of it.
Yeah. I mean, I actually do think that Shadow King should be even more expensive. This is my opinion on like cards that may come out in the future. I haven't really like looked at all of them yet, but like the easiest way to create a new card and make it powerful is give it green power, right? Like if you look at all the cards that come out so far that are powerful, like they all sort of like somehow are either like a floodgate or they give green power. So if cards to make a card look powerful and be playable, you give it the ability to give green power, and a card that takes away green power is Shadow King, right? So like I feel like going forward with like card design, like you always have to like make new cards that give more green power, and then Shadow King will always stop them. So if Shadow King will always stop them, then I think you just make Shadow King a bit more expensive, because how can you make like cards that in the future that don't give green power? Like what is the way to give the game busted cards without actually having them give green power? It's kind of like difficult. I feel like every busted card that comes out sort of like contributes to green power eventually.
But it's important to talk about why that is, right? Like, why do all these cards involve green power? Well, it's because that if you want to give a card some dynamic amount of power based on you doing a thing, right? Which is called playing the game Marvel Snap, it's got to be green power, right? Like that's the thing that you run into is like if you want to be
doing too much, right?
Right, like if you want to make, and I'm serious when I say this, if you want to make an interesting card that's like, oh, here's your game plan, do this and this card will pay you off for doing this. That payoff will always come in the form of green power because that's how Marvel Snap works, right? Like it can't be anything else. So like whether you look at, say, Thena, that payoff is green power. Zombie Giant Man, that payoff is green power. Aurora, that payoff is green power.
Payoff is green power.
It's the only way you can do that in this game. You don't have cards that are like Claw, except when you complete an objective or whatever, you get more power on the ongoing. That doesn't exist. And I don't actually know if it can exist, but like that's why Shadow King is so good, is like if you're trying to make a card that is interesting, dynamic, and pays you off for completing a game plan or for executing your game plan, that is a green power card. Every single time. That's the only way you can do it until they develop the technology to make an ongoing that scales in that way. Like, it can't be anything other than Shadow Kingable. I really want to talk about this one because I think it's really important. Ramp is a tech deck. I think we've hit that point where it's like, this is not a deck that is like, oh, I'm going to take advantage of Victoria Hand not having any interaction for me and just make a bunch of points. It's not that anymore. Ramp is the only deck that gets to play the really expensive tech cards. It's the only one. It gets to play Cosmic Ghost Rider, it gets to play Enchantress, it gets to play Legion, it gets to play all those cool-ass cards. And this is a direct consequence of their decisions to make tech a more expensive thing. These cards used to be A, cheaper, and B, have more power. Cosmic Ghost Rider had more power. Enchantress was cheaper. Shang-Chi was better. You could play them in more decks. Remember when we had Zabu making all of them cheaper? That was great. Now you cannot do any of that crap with any of this in any level of having it be good. And that means that Shadow King is carrying even more weight because of how cheap he is. You have to go out of your way to play the other tech cards. You have to be playing a deck that is cheating energy in order to even get access to them. I do think that is really cool and really good. It's like an RSM type of deck building without actually having to play RSM to do it. It's a clever thing that you have the ability to have multiple 5s in your deck should actually be gated behind what kind of deck you're playing. That's probably a good thing. I just think that it's also really important to note that another reason Shadow King is carrying the load that he is that you kind of can't run a bunch of tech cards anymore because they're all too expensive.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing bad to say, honestly. I'm a very big fan of the fact that like the deck that runs ramp is allowed to play such things, you know. Like I never really like the fact that like basically I never really like the fact that Shadow King is everywhere, to be honest. Like if every deck could play Legions, every deck could play Enchantresses, it's gonna be a bit more annoying, right? Because like then every deck is just that basically ramp is not special. Like ramp is special right now because it's kind of like the only deck that can play these things because you skip a step in terms of the mana curve, so you can like play the slightly more expensive stuff ahead of schedule, which is very important because like playing them ahead of schedule sometimes means they can be useful just for the fact that they have stats, right? Like because you're playing them a little bit earlier. But at the same time, you can play multiples of them because of the RAM. So I really like the fact that RAM is it's like this style of deck right now. Like it's allowed to play the more expensive tech cards, and that's really something that I really enjoy.
I am going to be hosting a tournament this Saturday, 8 p.m. KMBest's holiday block party. We kicked around a couple of names for it. One that I wish we could have used was KMBest's 9th Night of Hanukkah. I thought that would be a very cute little nod to the person that I am. But we ended up on KMBest Holiday Block Party. The basic premise is it is sort of the format we're going to use is going to be very similar to the Snowball Showdown, the official tournament that is going to happen in January. We are going to have either 64 or 128 players allowed, with preferential entry given to the people who contribute to my channel, not monetarily, but I mean like people like Derek and Honifer, who, like, if your deck shows up on my channel, you're probably going to be in this tournament. Those are the people also who I think probably need the most practice with this format, because the format is a little bit different, and what they're trying to do with the format, and I'm not sure it'll pan out, is make losses feel less punishing. So the way they're doing it is counting cubes, which personally, not a big fan of counting cubes, but I'm going to give it a real shot and see how it ends up looking. Basically, you win by more, you get more points in the tournament. So instead of doing typical tiebreakers, it will count win margin. There are some issues with this. I think largely from their perspective, what they want is to make your losses count more. They want that to be good. I think, to me, this is sort of an example of, like, here's where our head is at, and then if it works well for me, maybe they'll do it for Snowball Showdown. I don't want to speak for them. I don't really know where exactly their head is at on how this is all going to go down. I think the idea is basically they want to do a less pure competitive version of Marvel Snap, a more let's actually just get together and have fun, like a sort of high voltage tournament. What I worry is that this might not be far enough from a normal Marvel Snap tournament to feel different. The other rules we have in place are no RSM, which is not because we don't like RSM, but because of the other rule here, which is you have to play a card for the most recent 3 months. They wanted it to be 2 months. I was like, I would like that requirement to be as loose as possible. I figure it's going to be very easy to do deck building with the most recent 3 months, but we'll see how it is. RSM just sort of lets you cheat that. So that's the main issue I have with RSM. Other than that, though, I think what I'm going to be experimenting with here is, much like I, as a person, have tried to be less a competitive Marvel Snap player and more of a content streamer, that's sort of what these rules are reflecting for me.
Well, if I were to be playing this tournament, I can't because, like, I'm Christmas party or whatsoever. Like, when I heard the first rule set, my gears started churning, and I started thinking of how to make this a very unfun tournament already, because I'm just because I know what you can actually do. I'm not saying game the system, but there are ways to, like, force your opponent to lose an 8-cuber so that you can get 8 cubes. Because
what do you mean? Right? What do you mean for what? Hold on, no, hold on. What do you mean there are ways to force your opponent to lose an 8-cuber?
I mean, what I'm trying to say is that, like, you can widen the margin.
Why didn't anyone tell me about these ways to win 8 cubes for free?
No, it's not for free, but, like, you can figure out a way to widen the margin, right? Or, like, reduce the margin. Like, if you know you're gonna lose, grind it out and make it, like, so that the margin is smaller, stuff like that. Because the total cubes you win by matter, right? Is what you're trying to say. So, like, if you're gonna lose, for example, try and, like, grind it out and play it like a tighter scoreline is what I'm trying to say. Like, obviously, I haven't thought of the, like, schematics yet, but
that is my big worry about the format, is because I think there's a real chance that what this format does is incentivize people to play grindier rather than incentivize people to play bigger. You know what I mean? I think the goal with the format is to try to incentivize people to play for 8 more. My instinct is that a good player looks at the format and they're like, let's play for 8 less. What if we play for 8
you're incentivized to just, like, chip away or like play that. I mean, then again, this is also an interesting format, right? If you think about it, it's like a different way of sort of playing Marvel Snap per se as well. But I wonder how many people actually will get into the nitty-gritty of these rules. You know, like
I think that it's good that I got the people in early that are like high level grinders who are like doing this to prep for the tournament in January, because it's like this is a chance for them to get experience, and B, a chance for the people that run this tournament to actually see how like a sicko will interact with this. Like you actually get to see how people who are like really invested in winning this will try to interact with this system. And hopefully, you know, I mean, best case scenario, everything goes great. Everyone likes the new format. Nothing bad happens. Second best case scenario is if anything does happen that's bad, it happens to me instead of like to the official event. So that's really like all upside, I think, from the perspective of this. I think it'll be a fun event regardless, because watching people play high-level Marvel Snap is basically always fun. And at least as a commentator, figuring out the wrinkles of how this will impact decision-making in-game, I can see there being fun moments of me being like, oh, dude, that's why this snap happened, or that's why this retreat happened. It's because of the rules set. Like that's a wrinkle on commentary that I think could be interesting. I'll say this. My pitch for, like, if I were an advertising executive, if I were Don Draper coming up with, like, how do I sell this format, what I would say is it's the most snap skill intensive Marvel Snap format of all time. That's what I would say.
I was about to say that this mode is so easy to throw in semi-bluffs, man. Like, you just have like any random lead, you just snap, and the other good players, like, it's not worth losing.
They have to leave, right? Like, they have to.
Yeah, because they don't want to lose by big margins, right? Even if you lose, you want to lose by the smallest possible margin ever. Man, this is actually gonna be fun, man. Excited to watch.
Yeah, like I do think that there's a real chance for like snap skill
to win it,
to be on display here as opposed to game skill, which is really interesting. I didn't even keep track of this. Lambie was just like, we should talk about how we've been doing it for 2 years, and I was like, that can't be right. Did we really start doing this like the week of Christmas? Like, apparently what I have done is
it's more than 2 years, but
okay, that makes way more sense. I was like, there's no way. But at the same time, when I started the KMBest podcast, we hit our year anniversary the week of Thanksgiving, and we were both just like, really? Why did we do that? Like, what are we? So it's totally believable to me that we would have done something starting the week of Christmas. I fully believe that. But either way, it's been 2 years of 8 cubes.
Right.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. It's been a blast, and I look forward to doing this as long as we can. Like, you are the absolute greatest co-host of all time, and I really appreciate everything you've done.
Honestly, like, the amount of like people that watch this podcast, you probably don't even know this, but I think I mentioned this randomly before. Like, I have friends that know nothing about Marvel Snap or like card games, that like they watch it because they know that I'm doing this once a week. I'll just randomly mention to them I'm gonna film the thing, and they're like, oh yeah, it's coming out on like Monday, right? Yeah, once a week they just tune in to see me talk about this, that they don't even understand the games. Like, I have friends that just watch.
That's
like,
awesome,
I've been doing it for 2 years. Yeah, so like I mean this has been insanely good for me as well, because like factually, I'm less in touch with Marvel Snap this year than I was in the last 2 years. But like I look forward to doing this like every week, because like I always believe that like Marvel Snap was one of the reasons why I can be like who I am right now as well. Like it gave me my growth, you know. So like I'm very like excited to like keep myself involved, and I really like doing this. Honestly, it's because like it's fun to do this with you. Like, if it wasn't fun to do this with you, I wouldn't be doing this. But it's really fun. So like, to be honest, I'm doing this more because I like the vibes as well. And like, I mean, Marvel Snap was my everything for a period. So yeah, this is great, man. Like,
lo-fi podcasts to vibe to.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's like we started this actually in September 2 years ago. So it's like 2 years and 3 months ago, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
We missed our own anniversary. That's crazy. You know what? I'll tell you something. When I upload these to Spotify, I have habitually lost track of our episode number. So I think like Spotify asked me for an episode number every time, and I'm like, it's season 3, episode 46, and I feel like I've done that 4 times, but I have no idea what. like if you look on our episode numbers on Spotify,
right? Obviously, because 2 years is 52 times, so it's 104. Maybe we have 110. Sometimes we skip a few weeks, right? But
Yeah.
We definitely had more than that, dude. There was a period where we would do double per week, remember? So
Oh
it's
yeah,
definitely
It was like
it's
on
like
my channel and
150.
your
We're
channel.
probably at 150.
God,
Yeah.
we've done so many episodes of this show. That's
Mhm.
crazy. We were doing so much content. That's amazing. Shout out to us, and of course, shout out to you,
Shout out to us.
the
Shout
viewer,
out to you guys.
who has stuck through us through 2 years of two guys who clearly look identical when both of them are wearing glasses.
Totally.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I've been KMBest. He's been Lambie Series, and he's gonna take us out.
Like, comment, subscribe for the next few years, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.